Hello, movie and entertainment fans, and welcome to the very first episode of the Calvin Cam podcast. I hope everybody's had a fantastic new year, and now you can celebrate even more by listening into this new podcast that I'm launching, the Calvin Cam podcast. Here, I'm going to be tackling all sorts of topics in the film and television world as well as the video game industry. I'm so excited and happy to be starting this up, and I hope all of you enjoy it. So, let's get right into it. Today's episode is a review episode for HBO's newest show, The Last of Us. It's based off of a more than successful video game that came out a decade ago. In 2013, The Last of Us is one of my favorite games of all time, easily making it into my top 5. I'll do an episode later on what my top 5 video games of all time are, but for now we're going to talk about The Last of Us. And, HBO has finally come out with their cinematic adaptation of the game. And so far, it's a home run. Not only does it stay true to the source material, it expands on things that I feel the game couldn't. We open up and we're in a talk show. We have a scientist and a biologist, and they're talking about like the virus, the fungi, how it affects insects, etc. And we don't get much of that in the game, except for when you find like collectibles here or there that explains kind of things that are happening or how it happened, but in a different way. And so it's cool to see that the show is kind of taking a different approach at the story because we're getting something new, and the the hardcore fans of The Last of Us are experiencing new details and new story, as well as sticking along with the same beats of the game. And I just think that after I've watched this first episode, I've been trying to compare them to find, to see if I'm like, which one do I like more? Which one? I think this is one of those rare cases where both versions are equally as good in their own way. Kind of similar to how I feel about Jurassic Park. I feel like the book is amazing, but I also feel like the movie is unbelievable. And they're both great. And it's hard to pick which one I like more, which one I like less. So far, I feel like HBO's doing a great job with just seeing the first episode. I seen that there are some reviews out there for people who have gotten to view the entire season, and they're giving it 9s out of 10. And, I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much because I know that a lot of critic sources and reviews that I follow aren't necessarily great, but I enjoy them anyway for my own reasons. But the show is doing really well. It's sitting at a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, which, again, you take things like that with a grain of salt because, didn't they say Miss Marvel was one of the best shows of 2022? And I'm not trying to say Miss Marvel's not a good show. It's a good show in its own right, but it's definitely not like A plus tier, S tier. So Rotten Tomatoes, take things with a grain of salt. 99%. That's almost outstanding. It's cool to hear, but I am still skeptical. I want them to do this show so good because the game is so well done. And it feels like that. In the game, we get a different kind of opening. We get Sarah on the couch and Joel comes home. And in the show, we get to see like a whole day. We get to see, what the day life of Joel, Tommy, and Sarah is. She goes to school. She gets to go to get her dad's watch fixed for his birthday. Tommy and Joel have work. They do construction or something with a contractor, and some hard labor, and it's long hours, and we get to see kind of like what their life is kind of set up like. And it's hard to see, again, like going back on the difference between the video game and the show is like hard to determine which one does it better, because I love the way the game opens up. You're right into it. Shit happens so fast. This one we kind of ease into it, but we ease into it in a suspenseful, creepy way. One of my favorite things that the show did was when Sarah visits her neighbor and her mom is in the wheelchair and she's kind of like tripping out, behind her. And as we see Ellie, not Ellie, I'm so sorry. As we see Sarah, like checking out, the house, we see her mom behind Sarah, like tweaking out, showing that the virus is already there. It's already spreading. Things are happening, which is super cool to see that it's going to happen, at a pretty good pace, just like the game. And in the show, when Sarah is on the couch waiting for Joel to get home, that's kind of like where the game and the show first connect, where they first meet together. And it's cool to see how similar it is. The nods at the game are incredible. Sarah's wearing the same exact shirt and pants as she did in the game. And some of the dialogue is even straight out of the game. Like when Joel, is messing with his watch and it doesn't work. And then Sarah's like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Just kidding," basically. And he's like, "How did you afford this?" She's like, "I sell drugs, hardcore drugs." I'm like, yes, dude. Like, it's the same exact dialogue. So it's really cool to see how true they are to the source material. And I heard that Neil Druckmann wrote some of the script of the show and that he was there working on the project every day of filming, as well as I know that Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson are both not only in the show, but they were there to give input. And it was great to know that a lot of love and a lot of care went into this project. I mean, The Last of Us is easily one of the greatest video game stories told. So to see everybody being on the same page for this show is fantastic. And Marlene, the actress who plays Marlene, she also played the voice actress. She also played Marlene both in the show and the game. So to see her come and be a part of the show is so cool, because it's just, again, another nod at how much care and love went into making the show. Also, I feel like the show is a lot more eerie than the game. in the beginning parts where, Joel's gone, he went to go help Tommy with something at a bar, and Sarah kind of wakes up and he's not around, and then she wanders out because her neighbor's dog's at the door, and she comes to help the dog get home, and then realizes that there's something fishy going on in the house, and she finds the dead bodies, and grandma's eating someone, and the tendrils are coming out of their mouth. Oh, the tendrils, that's another cool new feature that we don't see in the game. The tendrils, I believe, are the replacement for the spores. They went with the tendrils, which I think is honestly kind of scarier than the spores are. I mean, the spore is a cool aspect in the game, but to be done in a show, in a format, like, I feel like that was a good choice switching. So, because I mean, like, do we want to see Daddy Pascal with a face mask on the whole time? No, we don't. So, and we get to see the tendrils come out of Grandma's mouth, and she's the way that the infected move in this is so cool. Like, later on, oh yeah, like, I'm sorry, I'm getting excited talking about this. But there's just a lot of cool things that are just so perfectly executed between the game and the show. And honestly. Like when Joel and Tommy get back to the house to pick up Sarah, and they're just like, let's get the fuck out of here, and they book it and they leave, and they're heading into town, to try and escape. I think they were talking about going to Mexico, going anywhere, but where they're at. It's really cool to see how much of those shots the cinematographer did are like the game. Specifically, the ride in the car between where Ellie, I did it again, where Sarah is in the car. It's like a POV shot, and her in the back seat. And we see Joel and Tommy in the front seat, and they're driving, trying to get out of town. It's the same as the game. It's cool. You get to see the burning farmhouse, same as the game, which is also really cool. And also when they're in town and they're running, instead of a car crash that hurts Sarah, it is a freaking plane crash. Like, a piece of the plane comes flying and hits the car. That's crazy. So again, it's cool to see. And somehow I feel they made the regular infected, not even the clickers or anything, the regular infected, more scary than the game. Like the way that their movements are when Joel is carrying Sarah and they see a bunch of infected just like eating on the ground, and then one of them just tweaks up and like runs after him, and he's hopping over stuff as they're running through like a little convenience store, it looks like. And it's just really cool, really well done. And then the whole part with the soldier, probably one of the saddest moments in gaming, is the death of Sarah. And somehow the show made it sadder. The actress who plays Sarah, she did outstanding at dying. She was so good. I was so sad. I cried, just like I did originally in the game. I always make people play this part, at least the first part of the game, because if you're not hooked by just playing this opening bit of the game, then there's something wrong with you for not, like, if you don't shed a tear, there's something wrong with you. They made it sadder. I don't know how. They made it sadder, and after I watched this episode, I went back and I played the first episode of the game, and I was like, how did they make that sadder? So it's funny. I think they're killing it. They're doing a great job. I'm so excited to see more. I'm so excited to see so much more come to this show, and I'm wondering how long this first season's gonna actually be, like how far into the game we're gonna get in the show. I'm hoping that we get a two-parter. I hope that there is a season 2 of the first game, and then I hope that they continue later on into the second Last of Us. I would like to see how that is executed into a show form. But like finishing on with where this episode takes us, we get to see a lot more of what the daily life is in Boston, where Joel ends up with Tess, and we actually get to see a more expanded version of their character relations. It clearly seems that they're more of a couple in this show than the game. They always hint at something in the game, but they never like straight up, say anything. But this one, it just feels like they're living together, they're sleeping together, it seems like they're together. So I think it's just cool to see more on the characters here. And Tess is awesome. Tess, the actress who plays her, she did a fantastic job too. I like the way they handled the Robert bit in this show. Robert plays a bigger part in the game. Well, he plays equally like the same part, but like his part in the game is longer. And replaying the game after I watched this, like I realized like, oh, the Robert bit is kind of like a tutorial part on running around and shooting and dealing with enemies. So to see it like yes, we have. This is Robert. He's a shitty person. He stole the or he took off with their battery and he sold it, and the deal went south, and he ends up dying, and not even by Joel or Tess. He just is already dead there by the Fireflies. So it's cool to see that. And I just want to take a second to say that Bella Ramsey as Ellie was one of my biggest concerns watching this show. I did not know how she was going to be. But when the first time she says, fuck you, I was like, that's her. That's Ellie. She did it. That's Ellie. It sounds just like her. It's Ellie. So I hope that Ashley Johnson is like super proud of her, and I am just so giddy to see this is Ellie. Like, this is the perfect portrayal of the character. And I love Pedro Pascal as Joel, Daddy Joel. Daddy Pascal, Daddy Joel. So it's perfect casting so far. I'm looking forward to see Bill in this show because the actor who plays him is Nick Offerman, and I've heard great things from some people about his character in the show is a lot more fleshed out. So I'm excited to see that later on. So first episode of this show, I give a 10 out of 10. Absolutely loved it. What a incredible pilot episode. So it did everything that I wanted it to. It delivered. I'm here for the ride. I was here for the ride from the beginning, but I'm here for the ride even more so now. So I am more than happy with the direction that we are seeing all of these characters journey through the story of The Last of Us. And hopefully episode 2 is equally as good. Hopefully the whole season is equally as good. But that's going to conclude my review for episode 1. So stick around for every episode to be reviewed weekly. So if you're excited to see what I think, then check the episodes out. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening to the Calvin Cam podcast. I'm so excited to be having this podcast be a part of my year 2023. We're going to go places, baby. We're getting there. We're going. We're expanding. And you can help me grow by listening in. And I really, really appreciate all of you so much. I'm going to be uploading this podcast to Spotify and YouTube at the moment, but eventually we will be moving on to Apple Music and Google, etc. Hopefully all of them soon. So thank you so much for your support. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and get those notifications going for new episodes. I'm gonna have 2 episodes a week, most likely Tuesdays and Thursdays. So look forward to seeing you, and thanks.